Hello and welcome to Sliders and Wings, a podcast about the TV show Sliders.
And the TV show Wings.
And all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
I'm Valerie Temple.
And I'm Rachel Cox.
Hello, Rachel.
Hello. I'm in extreme gardening pain right now. My back hurts, my knees hurt, my hands are like all chapped and sore, and I've got like scratches and splinters all over.
Oh my gosh.
It's worth it. It's like 5 years of neglect that I'm catching up on from the previous owner. So once I do it, it won't be as much work, but it is almost an acre.
Yeah, you have a gigantic amount of land.
I know, it's such a waste. I wish I could put like a apartment building back there. You know, what's interesting about the supply chain issues is that we had a fence guy come out because our backyard borders onto train tracks and there is no fence and we have 2 small kids. So we want to get a fence up there. And he says that, you know, for a while wood was really expensive. So the wood fence would have been more expensive than the steel. Now the supply chain has switched where it's hard to get metal. So now the wood is cheaper than the chain link fence.
Interesting.
And I'm going to start stocking up on flour because I saw on Twitter, someone said, you're not going to get flour next year.
What?
Well, I'll get 10 pounds of flour.
I think I've had the same giant bag of flour for a decade now, but good for you for having the patience for gardening and things like that, yard work.
I shouldn't call it gardening. I should call it brush clearing. I'm not doing much nurturing.
We paid a landscaper this year.
Whoa.
Yeah. That is called adulting. We had to like cut down a tree in front of our house because our previous owners had planted a tree way too close to the foundation of the house.
Oh.
So we had to cut that down, and then it made the entire front part of our house look really bare. And I just did not have the patience or the interest, I guess, in purchasing huge hedges myself and digging holes and planting them. I was like, I'll pay the money. It's fine. We got bushes, we got hedges, we got plants, we got 2 new trees in safe spaces.
Mow trees, no problems. That's what Jay-Z always said.
Is that what he said?
We've had 3 guys come out to do, quotes, arborists, because everyone around here needs a tree service because there's a tall canopy of old trees. So they're all tulip poplars, not to be confused with another plant that's called a tulip. It's not a tulip, it's a tulip poplar. Why do they do that?
Grape and grapefruit.
Oh, and grape nuts.
Like, how are people, non-native speakers, ever supposed to figure out this dumb language?
The dumbest fruit or vegetable name of all time is the French word for potato. It's pomme de terre.
That's right.
You know, the dirt apples?
A dirt apple.
Or earth apple, whatever.
That really makes my mouth water.
Anyway, the first quote was $7,000. And we're like, whoa. Basically, to take dead limbs that might fall on the children to cut them off. And then the next quote was $11,000. And then the third guy came back and said, leave all the trees and instead take this other one down, and that's $3,000. So we're real confused over here about which trees need to come down. We're like, maybe we'll just take our chances.
That's like taking your car to the shop. They're like, oh, you brought it in for an oil change. It actually needs $16,000 worth of work. Would you like to do that? And if you don't do it, you'll surely die.
We watched the episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm with the house husband, which is the season that you were talking about that has Tracy Ullman in it. So Leon decides that he's going to come in with all kind of service people and interject and get things to be cheaper. From the beginning, you're like, you're not making things cheaper. You're just having them do half the work. It turns out badly where every single job breaks or falls apart.
Yeah, there's an amazing montage of just everything going to shit all at once. The lesson of that episode is surprisingly pro craftsmen. They haven't been ripping you off all along. They know what they're talking about.
Exactly. Well, we are trying something new again with this episode. We're doing another combo where we're comparing 2 shows from different eras. So the first show from the 90s that we're doing is Newsradio, which is a favorite of ours. Well, favorite of mine.
It's definitely a favorite.
Huge favorite. And I was like, what's another show about radio? And of course, WKRP in Cincinnati came to mind because you had recently been watching all of it.
That's right.
So I picked a few news radio episodes. You picked a few WKRP in Cincinnati episodes. And here we are.
And I have to say up front that I could not send you my favorite WKRP episodes because for some reason, none of the season 1 episodes were on YouTube.
Did you mention at some point the music licensing issues with the show?
Yeah, that show, it was not on DVD for forever. And then streaming is also a huge issue with it because they used real music, real songs. One of the episodes we watched, the audio cuts out for a second while Venus Flytrap plays a song. And I was like, oh, music licensing.
Well, there is so much more to know about News Radio than I even expected. So News Radio was an American sitcom television series that aired on NBC from March 95 to May 1999, 5 seasons. And it focused on the work lives of the staff of a New York City AM news radio station. It had an ensemble cast featuring Dave Foley, Stephen Root, Andy Dick, Maura Tierney, Vicki Lewis, Joe Rogan, Khandi Alexander, Jon Lovitz, and Phil Hartman in his regular final role before his death in 1998. And it was created by this guy who I really had never heard of until I started reading about this today, Paul Sims. I was a huge mega fan of this show and I cried actual tears when Phil Hartman died.
I remember finding out about it because I think I was at my birthday party. I think we were talking about Saturday Night Live. You know, I had all my friends there. We were talking about our favorite people on Saturday Night Live. And I was like, well, Phil Hartman is the all-time great. And my mom is just like off to the side. And she's like, didn't he just die? I was like, no, that can't be. That's made up. Yeah. And that's how I found out that Phil Hartman died at my own birthday party, my heart dropping right out of my chest. I was devastated.
I was in 7th or 8th grade when Kurt Cobain died. And there was this real tough guy who everyone said was crying when he found out at school that day. And I'd always kind of like laughed at him, but I sympathized with him at that time because it wasn't like I was sad this person was dead. I was sad that I was not going to get to see any more Phil Hartman bits. It was also a really horrible death.
It was awful. It's hard to wrap your mind around it. I actually watched an additional episode from the ones that you picked out. I watched the episode that they did that addresses his death. It's episode 1 of season 5. They came back from break and obviously they're down a cast member. And so the entire episode is a memorial for the Bill McNeil character. And in the world of the show, he's had a sudden heart attack. And they're all coming to terms with his death. But I mean, it's extremely sad.
I remember that. And just doing my research today, I found out that Dave Foley has been on an episode of the Joe Rogan podcast. So I'm very excited to listen to that.
Oh my God.
Because I was also a Kids in the Hall super fan. I went to go see them live and I was really into Saturday Night Live when I was in middle school. Like that was so exciting to stay up late and watch Saturday Night Live. So News Radio was a guy from Kids in the Hall, a guy from Saturday Night Live, and then to top it off, Andy Dick from The Ben Stiller Show.
It was a real murderer's row. I didn't have cable, so my first introduction to Dave Foley was News Radio. I didn't see Kids in the Hall until after. When I watched Kids in the Hall, it was kind of a shock to me how funny he was and how much range he had because he's the straight man of the show. I think that really shows how funny this show is that Dave Foley is the straight man.
Kind of there's a lot of straight man characters on Kids in the Hall too,
right?
But I guess I felt like his sense of humor is more understated. He'll do the more sardonic quip with a straight face.
He excels at playing that character. It's just I had no idea how much he had beneath the surface. You know, how much silliness. He could have been just as silly as all of those other characters. I just respected the restraint.
Even watching it now, it still seems so weird that he's on that show. Because to me, Kids in the Hall was almost like a cable access show. So weird. I only saw it on Comedy Central. It seemed like no one else even knew what the show was. And then he just popped up on a network TV show. He still seems kind of out of place to me. The first episode that I think of when I think of News Radio is number 1 on your list, which was the one about the sandwich.
The arcade.
The arcade. I guess the running gag with Bill is that he was a neglected child.
Right.
They have this sandwich machine that everyone hates and then they get rid of it and he's the only one that's upset because it has these moldy sandwiches in it that are just like his mom used to make. She used to just make all the sandwiches for the month and then leave them for him.
They take away this gross sandwich vending machine and replace it with an arcade game. But Bill McNeil is devastated by the loss of this sandwich machine. And as they're taking it away, he's got an armful of all of the stale sandwiches and he plans to hoard them. And throughout the episode, he keeps taking bites from these sandwiches. And the sound effect they use, every time he takes a bite, it's like this like crunch sound. It is so funny.
And then at one point, Joe said he found some sandwiches from a different floor and he brought them in, but then he explains to Catherine that he just made them the night before and then strapped them to the roof of his car on the drive in.
Just make them terrible, yeah.
But in just the 3 episodes of this we watched, there were so many power cameos. Norm Macdonald plays Jimmy James's lawyer. I don't know if you noticed Lily Sobieski.
I liked how you introduced this as power cameos and saved the best one for last, which is Lily Sobieski.
Well, I kind of overstated it. And then I looked at my list and had to backtrack.
You ended on like a little fizzle there. She was in the arcade episode. What's great about Newsradio is there's just a lot happening. There's just so many characters and there's so much fun stuff happening. While Bill is hoarding sandwiches, Dave Foley is obsessed with this arcade game, which there's a backstory about how it basically destroyed his teenage years because he was addicted to it. Meanwhile, Maura Tierney, Lisa, is afraid she's getting dumber. So she decides that she needs to retake the SATs to prove to herself that she's as smart as ever. And Lily is one of the other students, the actual teens who are taking the SATs. What did we watch? There was The Injury, which was the one where Andy Dick and Joe Rogan are playing a game. There's a coffee cup on top of a hanging light in the hallway, and they're trying to knock it off. And Matthew hurts himself. Basically, the entire episode savages the healthcare system.
Yeah, they're trying to get him coverage, get him workers' comp for the injury because he doesn't have health insurance.
And then Phil Hartman is very funny in that episode because he is doing a segment called the Bill McNeil Perspective, and he is lambasting another radio station for using the word penis on the air. And by critiquing this other station, he just keeps saying the word penis on the air. Very funny.
And did you see the third one I sent, which was It's a Hot Day in the Office?
Yeah, I watched that one. That one was totally bonkers. Total breakdown of sitcom structure.
To an extent, when I was watching the WKRP episodes, I thought, okay, they also will do more experimental stuff. And that's kind of something that the shows have in common. They will experiment with format.
Sometimes locations. It's not always in the radio station.
Yeah, I think there's a whole episode of Newsradio that takes place in the future or on like a spaceship or something.
Yeah, because why not?
The article that we read, I guess there's 2 articles. One is Television, a Precocious Sitcom Freshman by Andy Meisler, and that's from 1995. And that's kind of about the showrunner,
Paul Sims.
And then there was one 2 years later, 1997. So that's before Phil Hartman died. That's about the troubles with the show, switching time slots and possibly getting canceled and how they thought it was going to get canceled, then it didn't. The gist is that Newsradio did well from the beginning. And then I guess they tried to do this thing where, and this is probably why so many shows fail, when we're always reading these Wikipedia entries, we're like, why did they move it to this night? Well, this is kind of why. So a show does well and they think, okay, it's got enough of an audience that we can now move it to another night and start anchoring other shows around it and get everyone watching that, but it doesn't always work. And then they just end up floundering or getting canceled or whatever. So that's what happened in Newsradio. It wasn't strong enough to create a new audience in this other time slot. So then eventually they found another slot.
IMDb says that the Newsradio time slot changed 11 times while it was on the air. That's too many times.
I was trying to think of a contemporary comparison to this. Netflix or streaming services clearly push different shows. They prioritize it. They can only show you certain things or they can make them appear higher in searches. So it's kind of like that. But back in the 90s, they would have to do so much publicity to get you then to come and turn the TV on at a certain time.
And then the fans of the show are just lost. They can't find it either. That kind of strategy by the network sort of sounds like in movies when they're trying to figure out whether an actor can open a movie. Is this actor a strong enough draw that people will go just for them? Or does this actor need another actor to make it a combined force? Even your favorite actor is not going to always be the draw to open a movie. Same with TV, I guess. It was an interesting pair of articles because the first article is basically about this wonderful show. It's so funny. It's amazing how funny this show is because the creator is kind of a weirdo who is only 29 and he lived in Pakistan and Saudi Arabia for his entire youth, didn't even see American TV really until he was older. So how did he do it? And the show is new enough that the article is talking about it as this new success. They mentioned that in its first 2 episodes, it did better than its lead-in show, which was Wings. So this was an article where it's like poised for success, news radio. And then the next article is like, uh-oh, what happened? Uh-oh, this show's on the bubble. This show's in trouble. What caused the trouble? And also, what are they going to do about it?
I don't remember this, though. They said that there was a stunt cast where Jerry Seinfeld made an appearance.
Yeah, I did read a trivia item that said that Jerry Seinfeld accidentally called Phil Hartman Phil instead of Bill during the episode as well. Didn't give a shit.
Phil and Bill, but then Joe's Joe.
Joe Rogan's a Tony Danza type where he's playing a character with his same name. It's just safer that way.
And it's so funny that his character in the show is a conspiracy nut.
Yep. Interesting. It's life imitating art. I read that Ray Romano was almost cast as that character.
Ray Romano was originally cast to play Joe, but was replaced because his style of verbal comedy did not mesh well with the fast-paced wit of the rest of the cast.
Oh, interesting. So he was actually originally cast? Wow. What?
Yeah, then Jon Lovitz comes in to replace Bill McNeil in the last season.
Yeah, which I think is a good choice. It was the best choice they could have made. Aaron and I really wanted Jon Lovitz to be the new boss on The Office when Steve Carell left. So much so that we made our own catchphrase for that character that could have been. It was Jon Lovitz just being like, "Hello, Office." "Hello, Office."
This I don't remember that in season 5, Lisa marries Jimmy's archenemy, Johnny Johnson, played by Patrick Warburton.
I don't remember that either. I was a huge fan of the show. I feel like I watched every episode, but it's been such a long time. And who knows how much I watched during that sort of cursed last season. This is not their fault, but that sort of tragic death, it just casts a pall over the entire affair. You're tuning in to just be reminded that this person died in an awful way. And so you just sort of have a bad association with it. I might have tuned out.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they even did a season after that.
It happened during the break, the season break too. So they had to come in and address it right away. Anytime it would have been hard, but that is a task that the best of the best would have a hard time with that. Khandi Alexander, she actually left in the middle of season 4. Did you know that?
Yes, and in one of these articles it said that the rumor was because she wasn't getting enough lines.
She wasn't getting enough to do. And she was on ER at the same time as well. She played Eric LaSalle's sister, and I think she was just like, whatever, which is sad because I remember loving her. You know, I love that character. I thought she was really funny.
I remember feeling, and I still feel, that she didn't really mesh. She seemed an adjacent to the other characters, and you can't help but wonder if it's because she's black or something, because she's the only black cast member.
Well, I thought that was super interesting, that episode where it's hot and everyone's hallucinating. That entire episode is all of these weird, crazy hallucinations, and her hallucination is that all of her coworkers are black.
I know, it was hilarious.
And she's like, isn't this awesome that there's people of color in the office? And then she stops hallucinating. She's like,
oh, hi, Jamal. Hi, LaQuisha. And then they're all talking about what a great office it is. And then she wakes up and then it's 2 white people. And she's like, oh, hi, James.
Hi, Michael. And the scene ends with one of the white guys being like, did you guys watch Friends last night? I felt for her.
Part of her character is her disdain for everyone else. she sets herself apart intentionally. But I always remember this one joke, which was all the cast is fighting about something. And then Joe says something to Catherine like, now, like, let's not all turn on each other. And she goes, no one's turning me on. What are you talking about? And he's like, no, turn on each other. She's like, yeah. And he goes, no, not turn on. Like, turn on each other.
Awesome. She's like, I'm still not getting it.
So I have never seen WKRP in Cincinnati.
In your whole life? Not one
Right.
episode? What?
Until this week. Because I think it was probably in reruns when I was a kid, but it just seemed like an adult show, like a work show.
I guess I felt the same way about Cheers when I was a kid. This seems like a show for adults. They're drinking beer. When I finally did watch it, I was like, oh, this show is super hilarious. I wish I would have watched this earlier, but what can you do? WKRP in Cincinnati, I feel like it was on in reruns in several time slots.
And you were living in Ohio, so that probably made it nice.
Oh, that's right.
Exciting.
You know,
Where I lived in Maryland, there was a few minutes from our house, a radio station office building, and it said W something on there. It always seemed very exciting to me, like, oh, that's where they do the radio show, right here near my house.
Oh my gosh. Anything that's set in a radio station concerns DJs. It's such a great setting for wacky characters. Who else would be working at a radio station but crazy, kooky characters, right?
The craziest character I ever worked with was this guy who was a projectionist at a movie theater, and he had 2-inch long nails. And he would just carry around lots and lots of plastic bags all the time filled with things that look like trash. We called him Wolverine behind his back.
I've worked with a lot of characters in my day. I mean, it would be hard to just spotlight just one. But the one that comes to mind is a guy I worked with at a place I worked at right out of college where I was grading essay questions from tests for 6th graders, and the only qualification you needed to work there was to have a college degree. It was a place that was entirely staffed by either substitute teachers or teachers over the summer vacation, or people that probably wanted to be teachers but were too weird to have a like a regular job. There was this one guy I remember who he was just incredibly hairy and sweaty. I saw him in his car after work. I was walking away and he had his shirt off and he was just dripping with sweat. And he was listening to Foghat. It was nuts. But he was just one of entire array of weirdos at that job. That's where Aaron and I met.
Speaking of Aaron, did you get my text that Greg said that Johnny Fever is a cross between him and Aaron?
Greg and Aaron? I didn't get that text. No. Oh. That's good.
Sorry, dear listeners. You'd have to know these two people to get that joke.
But it's very
accurate. They both have mustaches, so
yeah,
it's not too much of a stretch. See, and that guy to me, Howard Hessman, is the FBI agent from Clue.
Head of the class also. Yeah.
Clue. The people from WKRP are just all very vaguely familiar. I mean, Lonnie Anderson to me is the most famous one, and her hair, it's like Trump's hair or something. It's, where does it start? Where are the edges?
It's definitely not a wig, but it looks like a wig.
But it looks like it took a lot of work. Blur it so you couldn't see the ends of the hair. It forms like a shield around her face. It looks like a beekeeping hat.
It's glorious.
I went down a rabbit hole with the woman that plays Bailey because she married James Brolin.
Which I did not know. You sent me that link and I was like, what? She was married to James Brolin? Lonnie Anderson and Jan Smithers, Jennifer and Bailey. And to me, they were the Ginger and Mary Ann of the 70s. One's a real sex pot and one's a relatable girl next door. Bailey was an icon to me. A regular girl, cute and spunky and smart, ambitious.
Well, I was actually kind of surprisingly pleased that the Jennifer character, she is very sexy, but she's smart as well. She's not like a bimbo. I didn't feel like she was sexualized as much as I thought she would be.
Well, I mean, everything at the baseball game, she's just used as a distraction for them to win the game. All she does is walk on the field and gesture to the guys.
So she is sexualized, but I guess she's not a bimbo.
No, she's smart. I think she has excellent comedic timing. She has comebacks. She has zingers that she throws back to people. People are constantly ogling her and hitting on her, but she has no time for it. She fends for herself very well.
I'm comparing her to Chrissy from Three's Company, who was just the real butt of every joke. What I noticed about WKRP is there's no subplots. There's just one plot per episode. Made them feel longer, I think. I mean, you could say that the reason why TV shows now have a B, C, sometimes D subplots is just our lack of attention span.
We got to cut to something else. We're losing him. We got to bring in Bill with his sandwiches.
And two of the ones you sent me were really issue-y. One was about the concert and one was about censorship. That show is 40 years old and we still haven't really figured out what to do about censorship.
Or general admission seating.
Wow, neither of these issues have been solved. They're like, never again. I'm going to use my platform to fight to make sure that this general admission seating never happens again.
That was a weird episode. I hadn't actually seen it before. It's an episode where they addressed a tragedy that happened in Cincinnati at a Who concert. 11 people were trampled before the concert even started. And this sitcom decided to address it in an episode. It's a very strange episode because about half of the episode is just a regular episode. Them getting ready to go to the concert and they're all excited to go to the concert. Johnny Fever doesn't have a date. Gordon Jump, the station owner, he's trying to decide if he wants to take his son. Bailey's talking about being excited to go and she's taking a manic depressive priest in training or something. And then you cut to commercial and they come back and it's just after the concert and it's just a sad after school special. It's weird because Gordon Jump comes in. He's like, what a great concert. That was the best experience of my life. And everyone's like, did you hear what happened? A lot of people died.
And that happened in December and they put that episode out in February. So they did it pretty quickly.
I was thinking about the way that they addressed that tragedy versus the way that Newsradio also had to address a tragedy in an episode. It's a strange thing to have to do. WKRP, I don't know if they had to do that. It's interesting that they made that choice. You know, this happened in Cincinnati. Our show is about a radio station in Cincinnati. It makes sense for us to talk about this and we're going to try and do it, but it's in this format. It's still a sitcom. So there's still jokes. The same thing with Newsradio, where it's an actual episode of Newsradio and it's filled with jokes, but they're also talking about something extremely heavy. It's odd.
You sent me 3 to watch and 2 were pretty heavy. One was just about this conservative Christian group boycotting the radio station if they don't stop playing certain rock music with questionable lyrics, and how the station kind of just holds fast and decides not to give in to the censorship. And then one was about the concert. Even the third one was just about a baseball game between rival stations. I guess it is maybe a subplot, but Les, who's the nerdy guy with the glasses, the reason why he desperately wants to play the game is because he never was allowed to play baseball as a kid. He had to play the violin, so he keeps hearing in his mind his mother saying, I want to go and play baseball. No, you have to practice your violin. And then you hear the same violin piece over and over again, and it's all overlaid on top of him playing baseball.
It's sad. One of the classic episodes of WKRP focuses on Les from the first season, I think episode 4 or something, and it's called Les on a Ledge, and it's a suicide attempt.
Whoa.
It's Les out on a ledge threatening to jump because there's a rumor that has been spreading that he's gay. Yeah.
Double whammy. Oh my gosh.
The episode is super hilarious. It's a very funny episode. That was one I wanted to send to you, but I couldn't find it anywhere. It's an incredible episode because when you say it verbally, when you just sum up the episode, that's extremely heavy, but the way that they do it and the characters dealing with this, it's extremely funny and yeah, very memorable.
What about adjacent TV? What do you think for both Newsradio and WKRP? What if you like this, you'd also like, for Newsradio, I guess I'd say Larry Sanders Show.
The Mary Tyler Moore Show is a great analogous show. I had a really left field one I thought of, which was Spin City, which I also thought was a pretty funny show. My family watched it every week. My mom went to high school with Alan Ruck. So
whoa.
So she was supporting him.
A notary public came to my house a few weeks ago and said he went to high school with Will Smith.
Whoa.
In Philly. And then I proceeded to tell a story that reflected negatively on Will Smith. And I was like, oh, Rachel.
Why did I do that?
He's so proud that he went to high school with Will Smith. Just let
And
him
you
have
were
it.
like, oh yeah, you're so proud. Here's something bad about him. You're like, oh, why did I do that?
It's the only thing I could think of. For WKRP, the 3 episodes I watched all seemed a little sad.
And I feel bad about that because those were all episodes. I didn't pre-watch them. I just kind of pulled them and it was just a weird random mix.
I'll give it another shot. It would have been a lot better with the music, but then it would have been manipulative, like Euphoria.
That's right.
I've had Dirty Work stuck in my head for a week, and Ivan's even been singing it.
That's funny.
It's also because I've been doing yard work, so in my head I'm like, I'm a fool to do your yard work. Whoa, whoa.
I love it.
Accent Corner, nothing really.
I mean, just Dave Foley.
There is an episode where everyone finds out that he was born in Canada. I know. and I'm sure there's some good jokes in there.
He doesn't have a really pronounced Canadian accent.
No, but I think he brings it out in that episode.
I got to check that out.
Mad Magazine, I think we're probably gonna have the same one.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, Snooze Radio.
Snooze Radio.
I mean, come on. That's an easy one.
For the most 90s, I want to say the interior design, it's that 90s look. It's not real solid wood. It's like a dark wood, like a cherry mahogany dark wood veneer combined with then black. Then maybe like there's a little turquoise upholstery.
I see that.
Was it called Fraser Core?
The most 90s costume character is Beth, Vicki Lewis. On NBC at the time, Kathy Griffin was on Suddenly Susan playing a character named Vicki. So there was 2 wisecracking redheads. I felt like Vicki Lewis was the superior redhead, but she was just constantly wearing belly shirts and see-through tops and butterfly clips.
That article from the New York Times referred to her as a mischievous secretary.
I
I love the word mischievous.
I learned on Wikipedia that she was in a long-term relationship with Nick Nolte.
What?
Yes,
Maybe I knew that.
that stunned me. So that was exciting. And then at one point, Stephen Root talks about watching Melrose Place. He's in love with one of Kimberly's personalities.
What a very 90s thing is watching a TV show together. She's like, I'm going to Matthews to watch Melrose Place. People still do that, I guess.
We used to do that. And then Dave Foley's suits are so 90s to me, just like the cut and style.
What'd you say her name was who played Catherine?
Khandi Alexander.
She went on to ER and so did Maura Tierney.
That's right.
Guess you gave her a reference.
Khandi Alexander was more recurring, and Maura was a legit main cast member for quite a long time. It said that she joined the cast one day before they shot the pilot.
Wow. No, she was cute. She was good. I don't mean to lead with she was cute. She was a good actress. She was funny. She wasn't primarily a comedic actress, but she still worked with the material.
Speaking of cute, though, there's a scene of Newsradio that has always stayed with me. And it was a conversation between Maura Tierney and Vicki Lewis about the word cute. Because
yes. Oh my God. Cute means this. Gorgeous means attractive, but with good hair.
Striking means pretty with a big nose. Voluptuous is pretty but fat. Sexy is pretty and slutty.
Lisa is chosen as New York's cutest reporter, causing Beth to debate the meaning of cute.
She's like, you're not cute, you're pretty.
Okay.
I'm cute.
Okay, I have the dialogue here. Lisa, all right, I did not ask for the stupid award. Beth, if I were you, I'd be upset too. I mean, you, cute, come on. Well, I'm not entirely uncute. I mean, why are you being nasty about this? I'm not being nasty. You're pretty. You're very pretty, in fact, but cute? I don't think so. Well, I wasn't aware there was a difference. Well, of course there's a difference. Pretty means pretty. Cute means pretty but short and or hyperactive like me. What is beautiful? Beautiful means pretty and tall. Gorgeous, pretty with great hair. Striking, pretty with a big nose. Okay, you're making this up. That's ridiculous. Why would I make it up? Voluptuous, pretty and fat. Sexy, pretty and easy. Exotic, ugly.
And then Khandi Alexander walks by and asks them about their conversation. She's like, well, what am I? They're like, sexy. They just called her slutty. It's awesome.
I remember that too.
That is a conversation that stuck with me. Not only was it really funny, but I also thought it was extremely astute. It's a great observation.
It stuck with me too because, or at least I remember it, because all my friends were short. And whenever I was called cute, I was just say like, you can't be tall and cute.
especially when I was a teen, being called cute felt sort of dismissive and vaguely derogatory. You're a kid. Kids are cute. I wasn't a woman yet.
Kristen Bell, she will be cute forever.
So cute. So cute.
She's the Sally Field of our generation. I assume we're both thumbs up.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to put News Radio as #1 best comedy.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
What was the one before it?
Sybil.
Sybil. Oh, yeah, this is better than Sybil. News Radio. It's pretty much a perfect show. There's not much to change except stuff that was beyond their control. They did the best they could in a bad situation.
I am now remembering that I had a mega crush on Joe Rogan.
Oh!
At the time. And I had a specific fantasy that we would be trapped on a desert island together. I did not know that he was 5'7" at the time.
I had a crush on Dave Foley. Yeah, I liked Dave.
The only thing about the show that I always thought was kind of weird was that he was obsessed with Catherine and liked Catherine, and she just was always playing games with him. And I didn't understand that as a teenager. Do you like him or not? Like, she seemed like she did, but maybe she just thought he was too blue collar or something. I also thought she was, because of the way she dressed and carried herself, I thought she was like 30 years older than everyone else.
I did too, but I think she was exactly the same age as everyone.
Unknown, right.
Maybe like 5 years older or something. She was just so regal and, above it all.
That's the other conversation that stuck with me. Catherine with a K versus Catherine with a C. Hers is Catherine with a K, which is regal, but Catherine with a C is cheap and tawdry.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. The Joe character was definitely my least favorite character. He just kind of had a Joey Tribbiani vibe to me. Yeah, he's too dumb. Too dumb for me to like. To watch this person become such a cultural figure is very weird to me.
He was doing so much other stuff between then and now, though. He was doing Fear Factor and then the MMA, whatever that was. He's actually an MMA fighter before he did comedy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he did that stuff. He was touring, and then apparently he'd be on the bus cracking jokes, and the other fighters would be like, "You're pretty funny.
You should do stand-up. It's pretty funny."
Worked out.
Man, Fear Factor was a good show.
I think the Joe Rogan Experience would have an even bigger audience if he could cut the episodes down to an hour. Puts one out every day.
Every day?
I think it's every day.
This guy doesn't edit. That's his problem. People want to hear that much of him every day? Wow.
I don't think anyone could be listening to every show. It's too much.
That's like a part-time job. It's still truly so shocking to me that of the actors on News Radio, he's the one that is the biggest deal of them all now, like a megastar.
His podcast has been huge for a while. So
right.
I guess I've kind of already been through this.
I was confused before and then I remain confused. I think that's really where I am.
Unchanged. Good.
Yes, unchanged. I have a quiz for you.
All right.
So we've been talking about portrayals of radio on TV. How about radio DJs in movies? How about that? I compiled a list of actors' names, and I'm going to have you guess the movie where they play a DJ.
Okay. How many are we doing here?
It's like 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
10's good.
Okay. Wolfman Jack. That's a real DJ. Playing a DJ in a movie.
I don't know.
American Graffiti.
I've never seen it.
Oh, no. Okay. Let me skip to one that you might know. How about Robin Williams?
Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah, you got it. Okay. Eric Bogosian. Do you know who that is?
Ew, kind of looks like Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, and he played the Bernie Sanders-esque politician on Succession. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was my kink, was Eric Bogosian as Bernie Sanders. This is pretty hot. I am into it. Okay. Eric Bogosian.
I don't know.
He was in an Oliver Stone movie called Talk Radio.
Never seen it.
Okay. Christian Slater.
Pump up the volume.
You got it. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The obvious ones, I think.
You can't have all gimmies, you know.
Okay,
I have to give you some hard ones. Okay.
I just don't want anyone to think that I'm patting myself on the back.
No, you should be proud. Lynn Thigpen. She was the chief on Where in the World is Carmen?
Okay, I know this one.
Yeah, okay.
Get ready, though. I'm thinking, wait. The Warriors.
Yes, you got it. Minnie Driver.
Is it Truth About Cats and Dogs?
No, that's later. Keep that in your mind.
Is it the one with John Cusack?
Yes. Gross Point Blank.
Oh, I was gonna say Return to Me. Okay, yes.
Yeah, Gross
Okay.
Point Blank. Yeah.
I was near that. I was in the ballpark.
But the next one up is Janine Garoppolo.
Truth About Cats and Dogs.
Yeah, you got it. Okay. Clint Eastwood.
I don't know.
You're not going to get this one. Yeah. It's a movie called Play Misty for Me.
Is that from the 70s?
It's from the 70s. It's the first movie that Clint Eastwood directed.
Oh,
He
okay.
stars in it also. He plays a radio DJ who is being stalked by an obsessive listener.
Ooh.
It's pretty good. This is the last one, but then I have a bonus question. Samuel L. Jackson.
I don't know.
Do the Right Thing.
Never seen it.
Oh, that's a great movie. And he plays a DJ named Mr. Senior Love Daddy. But here's the bonus question. There's another well-known sitcom from the 90s where the main character is a DJ, at least at the start of the series. Name it.
Well, it's not Frasier.
But he's on the radio, so that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You're close. You're going to laugh when you find out what it is.
Mr. Rhodes?
No. Martin!
Oh, yes. Val, that was a great quiz. I just feel like I failed you.
You got like half of them. But no, Martin worked for a fictional radio station, and their call letters were WZUP. What's up?
That was great.
What you watching, Rachel?
Well, I finished Ghosts. Did you finish Ghosts?
I have not yet. I feel like I was ahead of you, and then you surpassed me. So.
Yes, I just assumed that you had kept pace. Finished Ghosts, and then Gilded Age and Raised by Wolves. I think that's it.
Aaron's brother is crashing with us, and so we've been watching The Righteous Gemstones together, like the newest season, which I really enjoyed.
Greg and I watched the first season and could barely get through it. Someone was telling me last weekend that we need to watch the second season, but Greg and I are skeptical.
I feel like I am a good person to talk to you about that because I kind of had the same feeling about the first season of that show. I didn't love it. I'm interested in anything that Danny McBride and Jody Hill and those guys do because it's a very specific voice. So I always find whatever they do, all of their shows or movies or whatever, refreshing in a way, even if I don't love it as a whole, you know.
Yeah.
The first season of the show, I respect it. The show is really interesting. This world is really weird. I loved all of the detail work of the costumes and the hair and the music, all of that stuff. It just seemed very well thought out. But I didn't think it was top to bottom interesting to me throughout. But then the second season, it's really good. It takes it to the next level. It almost feels like that first season was like, we're just laying the groundwork here. And then now you're ready to experience season 2.
They can replicate the joy of running through the house with a pickle in my mouth. Running through the house with a pickle in my mouth.
Misbehaving. We always quote Uncle Baby Billy, shuffle back step. There are so many quotable lines. I was like hysterical laughing watching
I felt like
it.
its main sin was having the bickering characters without enough of the humor to balance it out. I don't know what TV show kind of brought this on. Veep stands out as just being a lot of people insulting each other, but it gets very tiresome unless you have either breaks or, I mean, even with Veep, honestly, I found it kind of tiresome.
I feel like they fixed that issue in the second season.
Okay.
There's just like a lot of wild things that happen.
And there's the skinny John Goodman, which is always weird.
But there's also new people coming in. Eric Andre's on the show. Macaulay Culkin is on a couple episodes. Jason Schwartzman is on a couple episodes. It's a really wild ride and it's very enjoyable.
All right, this has been Sliders and Wings with Rachel and Val. You can email us at slidersandwings@gmail.com and check out Sliders and Wings Pod on Instagram.
Bye.
All right, bye.